Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today, we are going to take a very special look directly at the scene in chapter 34 of Kaiju number 8, where Commander Shinomiya slams his fingers into Kafka's chest and draws some blood. And a lot of people are mentioning that, well, Commander Shinomiya really needs to learn how to do proper phlebotomy there and needs to figure out how to draw blood properly. But he was drawing the sample that he needed properly. So, why did Commander Shinomiya do this? How did he figure out how to do it? And what exactly is going on here? Okay, so if the monster is captured, the government needs to do experiments on it, primarily drawing various bodily fluids to see what its chemical composition is, amongst other things. They need to know what kind of bacteria or parasites this creature might be carrying. So the government captures the monster, puts it in a cage, does a lot of experiments on it. Now, they've had Kafka at the 3rd Division, where they probably wouldn't have wanted to do any serious experiments on him and wouldn't have had the clearance to. They had him there for some times, but they had him at the Maritime Division facility for some time as well. Why haven't they done experiments yet? And why did Captain Shinomiya do these experiments and do the first blood draw in that such an intense manner? Now, the way it's set up, coming off of his conversation with the daughter, it seems on the surface level that Commander Shinomiya just really, really hates kaiju, and he's deliberately tormenting Kafka because of that. But that does not fit in with the character of what we know of Commander Shinomiya, both what we've learned of him directly and what we've learned of him through his daughter. He is a loyal soldier and would appreciate what Kafka is, because Kafka is very loyal as well. And Commander Shinomiya appears to be a creature of regulation and order. So why does it look like he's torturing Kafka? Well, let's go back, all the way back. I believe it's to the beginning of chapter 21, where you see Shinomiya Jr., or Kikoru. She's sitting on that fungal kaiju. This is right after the big fight between Kafka and Hoshina, and during that fight, Hoshina spliced off at least 5 separate chunks of Kafka's limbs, and Hoshina would be expected to remember pretty much exactly where he dropped those off. But yet, in the next chapter, as you're watching Kikoru sitting there, wondering if she should really trust Kafka, it says the limbs have dissipated and the collection has failed. Now, because Kikoru is right there sitting on the dead body of the destroyed Yoju, the fungal Yoju, you know it wasn't the fungal Yoju they were talking about. It had to have been Kafka limbs. Once separated from his body, Kaiju number 8's limbs dissipate so rapidly that the force cannot collect them. And I assume they would dissipate once in collection as well. So any piece of Kaiju number 8's tissue that is separated from Kafka's living body dissipates very quickly. Therefore, they could, even if they had the needles that could pierce Kaiju number 8's flesh, even if Kafka was 100% cooperative, and Commander Shinomiya expects Kafka to be cooperative, as we clearly see, then no matter how much Kafka wanted to, he could not have given them useful samples of Kaiju number 8. Because even if they cut off a whole limb, as soon as it was disconnected from his body, it appears to just dissipate. Now, this ties into my theory that the human body of Kafka Haibano and the kaiju body of Kaiju number 8 are two separate entities separated by in some dimensional way, where one body is kept in pocket space while the other body is out punching around. So, basically, what you have is a situation here where any piece of tissue disconnected from Kaiju number 8 immediately dissipates and becomes unusable for any scientific research. But they need that tissue. And I would guess that they've drawn all the blood they want from Kafka. Now, this brings me to my second point. When Kafka is fully transformed as a human, he is nearly undetectable as a kaiju. He was in the hospital multiple times with fractured ribs in the series. They would automatically have taken an x-ray of his chest, and even if they didn't notice the core, they also would have drawn blood. And in any time you go into any organization that requires physical exertion, you have to do a pre-employment physical. This is especially true of any military groups, police, or firefighter groups. So Kafka absolutely had his blood drawn and fully analyzed before he was accepted into the defense force. It would be a complete plot hole if it wasn't, because that's just how agencies like those work. They want to know if you have any fatal diseases before they start paying for your medical care. It's just the way things work. So Kafka had his blood drawn and nothing suspicious was found in it. So if they draw blood when Kafka's in his human form, it won't contain any kaiju elements. If they draw blood while Kafka's in his kaiju form, the blood will dissipate as soon as he transforms. They need to have a piece of tissue that is currently connected to Kafka's living body. Now, that's kind of tricky to do when he's sitting there. You can't exactly put a whole body under the microscope like that. But there is one tissue that will remain alive and living for a long period of time when disconnected from a human body. Blood. Blood is a connective tissue, and you can take one blood out of one person, freeze it, store it, and give it to another person, and it will still work just as well. So, what was happening here is we get to see Commander Shinomiya, or else the scientists that he works with and trusts, coming up with a brilliant solution to an obvious problem. Now, if you can't take the blood from Kaiju number 8, and the blood from Kafka doesn't show you anything, you might be able to get some results from a mixture of the two. Now, when you look at it this way, what Commander Shinomiya did, he went in there not to torment Kafka, not to torture him, but to get a blood sample. Now, they don't know if they can trust Kafka, but Commander Shinomiya assumes that Kafka's there of his own free will. So he apparently went in doing this and did it specifically in a way so that Kafka wouldn't know what was going on, which makes sense. First, Commander Shinomiya tells Kafka to stand up, and he makes the line about Kafka being there willingly or because he would have broken out otherwise. Then he pulls his gun and shoots Kafka from about 2 meters away. Now, this is very, very important. This is a very important element here. That was a test. Not of Kafka's loyalty, although it probably was that as well. It was a test of how fast Kafka could react. Kafka's arm comes up and he blocks the bullets. You can see all of the bullets embedded in his transformed arm. So Kafka is able to completely transform in Kaiju 8 into Kaiju number 8 in the space of a bullet traveling 2 meters. Now, the average pistol shot travels at 380 meters per second. It had 2 meters to travel, so that means Kafka managed to bring his arm up and transform in 0.005 seconds, 5,000ths of a second. Now, standard human reaction time for a conscious gesture is 0.15 seconds. But for an unconscious gesture, putting your hand up to defend yourself, it's 0.08 seconds. So Kafka moved 16 times faster than a human should be able to move when he blocked those bullets. And it showed that he automatically transformed to defend himself. This is a purely subconscious reaction. In order to stay alive, he will transform. That is what the information Commander Shinomiya needed. Then Commander Shinomiya takes his hand, which is covered in a glove, and he rams it into Kafka's chest while saying something that is going to emotionally disturb Kafka, namely that someone whose skin can stop bullets isn't considered human. And this would terrify Kafka and put him into a state of fear, which would put him in fear for his life. And that's when Commander Shinomiya slams his fingers, into Kafka's rib cage. Then he takes the blood and puts it in a vial. Now he has, assuming that Kafka transformed to prevent himself, given that Commander Shinomiya was in a uniform, in his kaiju suit, that blow probably had enough force to go right through Kafka if Kafka didn't do a localized transformation to protect himself. So we can assume that Kafka transformed the skin and ribs to protect himself from that blow, meaning that Commander Shinomiya now has a sample that is a mixture of the connective tissue human blood, because Kafka didn't do a full transformation, and also a mixture of the kaiju elements, and hopefully the kaiju elements will be kept alive by the human blood until they can actually run some tests on them. And so there it is. Call it a theory, call it an analysis, but I think that what was going on in that scene was Commander Shinomiya using Kafka's fear and startled reaction to get the actual physical material that they needed for tests that they didn't have yet. So that's my theory. What do you think? Was Commander Shinomiya just going in to take a blood sample, and the only way they had. Was he actually tormenting and torturing Kafka because he hates kaiju? And is Commander Shinomiya the cold-hearted person that we've been led to believe? So, what do you think? If you want to have something to entertain you until the next chapter comes out, go out and check out my book at the link below. Humans Are Weird. I have the data. Humorous science fiction. And if you want to break your heart, check out Dying Embers, Dragons, Aliens, and Things That Go Boom in the Night. And hit that like and subscribe button, and peace out, my wonderful viewers.
The book from author Betty Adams, Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, is a humorous look at human behavior through the eyes of aliens. This book is arranged in separate reports or essays, documenting the experiences with humanity through the lens of the aliens who have to interact with them. This anthology of short stories and vignettes from alien points of view highlights some of humanity's quirks we can all relate to. Author Betty Adams captures how strange and interesting humans can really be. This is a fun collection of stories you will really get a kick out of. Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, from author Betty Adams. Order your copy right now on Amazon.